welcome to another wonderful conversation. And this time, I have a pleasure of speaking with Ron de Brito. Hello, Ron.
Hello, Anetta.
Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. So, Ron is a powerful embodied peace coach and nonviolent communication and embodiment facilitator. Amazing stuff. Just within that, there is so much richness in here. And I would love to just start, Ron, with just asking you a little bit about your journey, a little bit about your work. If you could share some of that with us, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. So the first word talking about powerful is because I have so much empathy around people who don't feel very powerful, that in their work or in their relationships or the way they are with themselves, it can be so hard to stand up for themselves and say stuff like, oh, wait a minute, I don't think that's going to work for me. Or, hold on, could we try that a different way? Or, there are so many ways in which many, many people have that quiet voice that doesn't get heard. And yet, these people are important and they contribute to the world and their voices matter. And that matters very much to me. And so ways in which I can help people to feel confident about what their voice has to say, that matters, to bring that into my work. And I do notice the difference it makes, how dramatic it is, because it's not power about putting other people down. It's power to be your real self in the world.
I love that. I absolutely love that. It can feel like, it's always about who shouts the loudest, who can
Mm,
speak up the fastest, who can,
mhm,
say, oh, it's me, and can I say, and I think this, and in my opinion, it's that. And
mhm.
if you don't have this kind of way of being that is a little bit more extroverted, a little bit more out there,
Yeah.
I can agree that you can really get lost in the
Yes.
sea of voices.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that's your focus. That's
Yeah.
really, and I guess that really nicely comes with the non-violent and embodiment work, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, it does. Because if what you want to do is show up as your real self, for some of my clients, that often means like a kind of the floor drops away. It's like, my God, who is my real self? What? You know? And it often begins with this. "Oh, I would never have dreamed to be compassionate for the parts of me that I think are doing it wrong, that I don't really like those parts. And that's not a good way to show up. And actually to say, can I have compassion for the part of me that's a bit shy and the part of me that gets cross about things, or the part of me that feels crushed and disappointed sometimes? And all of this to me is just vital. How can we show up as our real selves if there are parts of us that we want to hush up and push them out into the back room, so they can't be seen? They all need to be welcomed. If this is who I am, then all those parts have to come along, and they've all got to be appreciated because they all contribute something useful for me to be me. And so I love teaching that, find the part of you that says, no, no, I can't do, oh, no, I can't do that. And go, well, let's just allow that beautiful, sweet part of you to be known and to be seen and to feel your love, which is the whole thing, for all the parts of me to feel my love. And that my love isn't only about giving it to outside, but to say, yeah, the part of me that's a bit embarrassed, the part of me that's been a quite pushy, or held back when my voice was needed. All of those different voices need to be known and seen. And if that's just me, because I know myself to give examples about myself, but imagine all the other people whose voices need to come to the table and to be welcomed and noticed and valued. Wow, that does feel really precious to me.
Yeah, this is really interesting, isn't it? Because what you are talking about goes so against the self-development and self-improvement and fixing kind of approach within our society, isn't it? It's like, well, let's fix this and let's get better and be a better version of yourself. And we are coming, right now we are coming to the end of the year, so the new year, new you energy will be stepping in. So
Yeah.
definitely there is so much. It's such a different approach, isn't it?
Well, it's true, and I there's something I want to say, that the way that the world has expectations of producing more, producing it faster, and making it better, all imply that there is something wrong with how you are in the first place.
Yeah.
And so much of my learning is around becoming who I was meant to be in the first place, as the most vital part of me. Like, my vitality is based in who I was always meant to be. And that the layers that came on top of that say, oh, don't be like that and don't be like that, they all matter. And I think the difference between the expectation that goes, do it more, better and faster, doesn't say, what resources do you need to change anything if it needs changing? And the change might be to acknowledge it more, not to put yourself down because you're not fast enough or not big enough, but to say, this is how I am. How fantastic is that? And it doesn't ask, where are the resources? And I think one of the things that interests me a lot in people is stress and anxiety, because they are stretching from not having the resources to do the things the expectations are asking of them. So imagine if we could instead look at, okay, I really love to try a new thing. What resources do I have? And what other resources do I need? Because we love going, right, off I go, I'm going to take this thing on. And then soon we lose the basics, we get tied up with the dream. And I'm very fond of dreams also, but sometimes we can lose the ability to do all of the basics, to sleep well, to eat well, to, take care of our comforts, and to rest in between activities, to exercise and to have fun and to play. We need all, as well as everything else, we need those things to resource us and keep us going. So, this is a fascinating area for me to speak about.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you in a sense that, when the foundation and the essence of everything, when we really take it, all this kind of what you were talking about, the bigger, louder, better, more shiny, newer,
Yes.
bolder.
Yeah.
But we take all of that away and we come back to this essence and the foundation of what it means to be a human being.
Mm.
We are left with those basic things, what you were just saying, it's like having a bit of joy and a bit of connection and the
Yeah.
basic needs being met.
Mm.
And, before we started this podcast, we were talking about indigenous cultures
Mm.
and how differently they approach the life and the rhythm of life and what's needed.
Yeah.
And that's really reflected. You mentioned stress and anxiety,
Yeah.
the kind of depression. I mean, we are the most medicated
Yes.
societies
Yes.
ever, here in UK, in America, in Europe. We are so unhappy, chronically
Yes.
unhappy.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
actually asking the thing about, do you have resources to look after yourself and how can you
Mm.
do it?
Yeah.
How can you build on those resources
Yeah.
without feeling that you have to fix yourself? It's such a different
Yeah.
approach. And for me,
Yeah.
it's like, you are nonviolent communication and embodiment facilitator. For
Mm.
me, it's almost like the essence of it, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
being kind to yourself,
Yeah.
being easy with yourself rather than taking out that big stick. and bashing yourself because you're
I
not
know.
good enough and
I
you're not
know.
perfect enough
I
and you
know.
said something wrong, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we can drive ourselves crazy.
We really can. And it's so built into our cultures. And especially, from children, that to produce the right answers often means not being your real self. I mean, I found embodiment and thought, well, I have to have this in my life forever. But as a child, I was asked to be good. And that often meant just sitting quietly, not pushing my voice anywhere where it wasn't wanted, and behaving in ways that suited the people around me. And I was really good at that. But boy, what a cost. It cost me growing as my real self. And to be active and lively and exuberant, and people who know me would say those are my qualities. And yet I was taught not to show up. And maybe that's why I'm so passionate about having tools to help us show up as we truly are. And that's at no point have I ever said to be better than someone else or to push in front of someone else. It's just about being yourself, aligned with your own feet and not comparing. And that's one of the qualities of working with nonviolence, is comparing is quite violent, because immediately it's, I'm not good enough, or they're not good enough, and I've got to be better than the other person. Imagine if we could say, I'm really enjoying being able to live with my energy that looks like this, and that I can share it with people. And that person over there, they look really great and they have a whole different energy from me. But isn't it super how we can work together? Because they have different gifts from mine. And all of that contributes into, lots of different energies coming together and making our purposes work well, because we're allowed to bring our gifts and we're allowed to bring our natural qualities, and we're allowed to enrich them through learning with the sort of work that I do and that you do, to enrich our gifts that we've always had, because squashing them down means we then don't have any resources. And then what is it that's authorizing us to change? What are we trying to do? Whereas if we come with our natural gifts, wow, this is what people love seeing. We don't realize that, when we're shut down, but people love seeing what our real gifts are, because they then see our freedom to be exuberant, to be quiet, to be reflective, to be questioning. These things matter so much. And the society, as you say, doesn't really support those things, because it's very much built on other structured ways of doing things that do tend to inhibit people's natural gifts, natural energies from rising up and being at the forefront of what they do. So, yeah, and I particularly love to bring naming our emotions, which again is completely countercultural, but if we keep pushing those parts of ourselves away, they keep coming back saying, please, will you notice me? And we don't want people to see our fear. We don't want people to see our sadness and our disappointment and our anger. But what are we doing holding them in our bodies? That tends to cause a lot of physical pain and tension and unhappiness, because we're holding it all in here. It absolutely needs to be spoken. And so some of the things that we love to do are to create safe spaces where it's all right to bring these things. And once they're spoken and named and acknowledged and witnessed, and they get to feel our love, then they're not pushing and making us tense. That energy can relax then and flow. And this feels very desirable to me, to bring these kinds of ways of being into the world. And when I talk about resources, it can be not just looking for something from the outside, but what's within me already that I've been blocking. And some of the things that we've been in trainings around often ask, what is blocking your energy from jumping into your next project? And so I feel so much love for all of these things. And like you, I've done such a lot of trauma training over the years. to bring that in, so to be aware of what clients might bring and to be able to contribute to their growth and learning.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love what you are talking about, because there is this, on one side, you're talking about naming your feelings, everything that is here. On the other side, you're talking also about knowing what blocks you.
Mm,
And it's such a balanced way, being trauma informed and understanding that people might have gone through difficult situations, how it shows in the body, how we can work with it. And without this kind of toxic positivity of like, let's focus on the great, what's working, and let's not kind of pay any attention to that. And, if you are feeling sad, how can you feel better? All
yeah.
of that kind of
Oh,
stuff, this
oh,
kind of toxic happiness and
yeah.
toxic positivity.
Yeah.
And there is a space, obviously, for positive um, thoughts and orienting towards well-being. But that first bit about what you were just talking about, your practice of naming emotions, you
Mm,
can't shift towards positivity without that first step,
yeah.
can you? it,
Exactly.
it's it's like the first thing, like you
Yeah.
have to acknowledge how you feel first, allow those parts to speak, and then you can move into a
Yeah.
different space. But what so many of us try to do is just to kind of ignore this, because
Yeah.
it's like, I've had enough of not feeling okay. I just want to move there. And then we tie ourselves in knots,
Yes.
don't we? We kind
Yeah.
of become really overwhelmed with all of this.
Yes.
So what are the kind of tools that you use, Ron? What are the kind of things that, how else would you help somebody to become more resourceful or
Mm,
resourced?
mm. It's really interesting because when I first meet someone, there's such a lot of intuition from what they're telling me as to what might arise first. And absolutely, sometimes it might be naming your feelings and figuring out what needs are not being met. It could be about, especially with people who are stressed and anxious, that energy comes right up in the body, you know, and then they stay there, And so the embodied part includes things like letting the energy drop through the body, let the energy come down to the ground, how to create a sense of groundedness, not just as something we talk about, but when you need it, when you're in the middle of a really difficult conversation or asking a question from your boss at work about something that really matters to you and they're not really listening and things like that, where you absolutely need to be heard. One of the ways that helps with being heard is to be grounded. But what does that mean? What might it look like? What might it feel different inside of you if you're grounded, as opposed to being up here and worried? And then, everything comes from up here, including your voice, and your worries take over up here, and you start thinking more about it, trying to resolve them. And if you let your attention come down through the body and you let your energy drop down, and you imagine instead what it's like to be so held by the earth. And even that is controversial, that we are creatures of this earth, of the soil, of the mud and the worms and the insects and the bacteria. And this idea that we are, all kind of people heading off, as you say, in their toxically positive ways to change the world, actually being in relationship with the world is much more likely to affect changes. That remembering that we are very simple and very ordinary and very basic. And that humility tends to bring me to a place where wonder and joy are now available, because I realize, gosh, every little thing is so amazing when I remember that I'm just like the leaf on a tree. And so it's a curious way of feeling empowered and at the same time feeling our vulnerability and simplicity, and letting them all be together in the way that we show up, because they support each other. because nothing is fixed. And we talked about that earlier. We're not just powerful. We are powerful because we have vulnerability that we give love and care and attention to. And we also might grieve when we have difficult emotions of something that hasn't been met. And meeting our emotions with love sometimes doesn't feel available. Mourning and grieving for what has been lost are so vital and valuable. As you say, instead of going, now I've got to attend the next course to make it all different, grieving makes it different because it metabolizes the tensions in the body and the sadness that are there, that are a natural part of being a live being. And then the world allows the change itself. And I think it can be a mistake. Of course, we have authority and agency to change things and to take actions. But sometimes we need that to be in relationship with our vulnerability and simplicity, so that changes come from being a grounded, aware person and not someone that's trying to punch their way through the wall, but to find the doors and all that is those inner doors to open to our energy coming into the world. So yeah, those are just touching on the things that feel alive for me and that I love bringing into my clients' ways of being with themselves and their own awesome palette of colors and tones and shapes and ways of being, which are so wonderful to be in touch with.
Yeah, I love it. I really love it. It's like a different way of being, isn't it? It's yeah, completely different way of being. It's not how we are conditioned, and we hopefully we have got the lack, or our soul leads us to learn and understand it in a different way, but it's such a soulful way, isn't it?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, what you're talking about is just like, we're shifting into this realm of being part of, like, we're not separate from nature. We're not separate, like, in fact, this earth is our life and sustains us. Without it, we're not gonna exist for much longer. And it's the same with kind of natural rhythms. There is a time for partying and having fun, and there is the time for grieving and withdrawing and taking time out to heal and rest. And one of the things that really stands out for me is how important it is to understand that we are so dynamic, and to understand that, if we slow down a little bit, we will have time to really understand what we're feeling. We will have time to understand what we need. We will have time to connect with others that really matter to us, to explore doing it in a slightly different way. But one of the things that comes up for me, it's how something about being brave and something about it being really challenging.
Yes.
I mean, it takes a lot. I mean, would you agree? It takes a lot of being brave or being courageous to actually say, I'm not going to do that anymore like this.
Yes, yes.
I'm going to do it in a slightly different way.
Yes. I love that. I love you reflecting some of the things we talked about earlier. And the concept of division reminds me so hugely about the principles of nonviolent communication, because we're longing for connection all the time. And yet the opportunities for division are rife within our society, within the media. It's so much looking on whose side are you on, who's right and who's wrong. And if we can find who's wrong and we can blame and punish them, what exactly does that bring? It does not bring ease and peace and comfort. So we absolutely need another way of looking at things. And I do believe that, working with people and working on myself, where I feel division inside of me, That's really uncomfortable. That's why I've learnt to bring compassion to myself so that I don't go, this part of me is better than that part. Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck. And then I see, when I help other people, and in a way, the fact that the way that I work helps people to become more courageous, to become more powerful, to be themselves in the world that they live in, around whoever they live with, testifies that this approach is vital. Because I'm not giving them some kind of a clip-on, resource. The resource is already within them, and I'm inviting them to wake something up that's already there, but got pushed down. And so unsuppressing and unhiding and revealing and opening up feels intuitively the best sort of resourcefulness for me. And it really works. So we long for connection, and we can start learning that right in here, to let all the parts of us feel connected and loved and known. And as we do that, and we have compassion for the parts of ourselves that don't get seen, that really helps us with being compassionate to the other person. Because if I'm in a lot of pain, I'm not going to listen to that person and what their pain is about. I just haven't got any space for it. And spaciousness is another quality that is vital, and that we can practice those things. Like we can practice groundedness, we can practice simply breathing without asking or demanding anything from it. We can also practice coming away from division into allowing connection to be there. And often in our relationships, it's really hard, the relationship within ourselves and with others, to renew relationships that stay connected even when people are upset. And so we've talked about this, how different it is to be with, I'm upset, but I don't want to be upset in such a way that it tears me away from people who I need to support me and encourage me, and to feel those qualities of encouragement, resonance, and witnessing. So there's so much in there that we can bring to the world that we already have. We can bring that light and that beautiful energy of possibility into bringing actions and behaviors that are new, but not because we blamed or punished anything or shut something down, but because we actually opened up to what's there.
Yeah. Such powerful words. What you just said is it's really landing for me so much about, if I'm in survival or if I'm in pain, I don't have anything to give.
Yes.
I don't have space to listen to how much you are hurting
Yeah.
or what's going on for you or your worries. I'm here doing my best just to survive in my own inner world, never mind you.
Yes.
And, the answer is really, how can we start looking after ourselves, our needs, so we are not in that survival, painful space, whether emotionally, mentally, or physically, all the time.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like we've come the full circle. We've come back into, we're back to foundations. How do we,
Yes.
how do we look after ourselves in this moment in the way that we need to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. There is something it feels to me like there is something so primal
Yes.
within that. So on a kind of very visceral level, like my body and my inner knowing recognizes it as a truth, as a, that really resonates, that really lands within my body.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Yeah.
I wonder if, if somebody was really interested in following this path. I know it's like you've been on your path for a long time and you've done loads of stuff, but if they wanted to go in that direction, and how could they do that? What your advice would be?
That's so great, isn't it? I would really want to explore what kind of feels good for them, because it's easy to go, right, I'm going to do that course. And that might be the most resonant thing. But it is important not to force yourself to do something, but to really do some good research and ask lots of questions, phone up people and explore and listen to, whatever is out there on the internet, and find out what really feels like a good fit for you, that feels like you can get that knowledge and work with it, not something that is clipped on, but becomes part of you, something that feels in your cells of your body, that you will integrate it and it will become what you are teaching from your own heart. And, we're very conditioned. We look at someone and go, oh, I like the way this person is talking. I want to do their course. But check, does that fit for me? If I were to try to present things in the way that I am, would that feel really juicy for me? Would it feel sensational? Would people really see my energy, the love inside of me really coming into my work by doing that course? And I think what I've done so much with my embodied training and my nonviolent communication is I've internalized it and I've practiced it enough within myself so that when I bring that into the world, it has a flavor of me with it. And that matters, because then I'm not trying to be a different person, or I'm not trying to deliver the content from somewhere else with the sensitivity that is me, but that they come together and that there's alignment and attunement between me and my work. So it just feels like me. This is what I'm always doing it. So researching what feels really good and gives you that buzz of joy and resonance of, that is a fit for me. And we've already talked about a few things that we would like to ourselves train in, so, that we've started and thought about and looked up, because we know already now that feels like a fit, that I know that the world needs this thing. And the way that I am, the way the cells in my body feel the world, that would absolutely work for me to bring that into my work. So that your work isn't something you go out to from 9 to 5, but your work is the work of being yourself and bringing your gifts, and that the courses that we take are really encouraging and enlivening and enriching our gifts, so that our work is, I'm just here, and that's what you're getting, the whole package,
Oh,
Does it all praise?
yeah, completely. I love that. I love that how you explained it. That you not that you embody it really, and then that's what you bring. It's not just kind of sharing what you learned as you learned it, but how you embody it. That's what you bring. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And there are so many things out there, aren't they? It's like we were talking about this earlier. So many different things, and you could go in so many different directions, and it does need to resonate with you, definitely.
I'm really proud of that, Annetta, because obviously when I was at school, it was very much about, take some subjects that will give you a good job. And now, where I'm at now, to be able to go, when I listen to that person and the course that they're doing, I feel it in my body. I feel the sense that this is something that's real for me. So that's why I'm choosing it. And that can't fail. Nothing can be wrong with that, because when your intuition says, try that out, there's an inner knowing. And I love that expression, because it includes logical knowing and rational knowing. And it's also attended by what your heart can tell you and what your feet can tell you. And that feels very valuable to me, because if the whole of your body is on board, well, then it's definitely a good fit, and it's going to enrich you, and it's going to allow you to show up in the world. And I think that embodied awareness in the moment, the way that we react to knowing it, feeling it, and allowing it to be the way that it is, and meeting all of ourselves with curiosity and gentleness and compassion, just feel that can work for anybody,
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Ron. So Thank you so much for taking time to speak with me today. As always, I absolutely love chatting with you. And if people wanted to find you, find more about your work, where could they find you, Ron?
Well, I usually suggest people look at my website, rondebrito.co.uk, because there I usually put up blogs and videos and things so they can just see stuff I've done in the past, which is a good thing to look at because at the moment I'm in a place where I'm writing and taking a dip in energy of giving out and just nurturing what's here and processing a lot before coming back. So definitely looking at my website, we'll see what I've been up to and where I might be going next.
Oh, lovely, exciting times.
Mm.
Thank you so much again, Ron,
Yeah.
for today's conversation.
Thank you, Annetta. It's been such a pleasure to share all this with you. Thank you.